You were not brought into this moment by accident, nor are you merely hearing a vague impression drifting through your mind. This is the point of intersection between what you have asked for in silence and what heaven has prepared with exact precision. Let me tell you this, to cut through the misunderstanding that has been clinging to your thoughts. The seasons of silence you once called being forgotten were, in truth, seasons of formation. While you thought nothing was happening, I was rearranging the inner structure of your being, removing what was not strong enough to carry your future, and reinforcing the parts of you that you did not even know would be needed. The hour of awakening is not a passing surge of intense emotion. It is a shift in perception, a place where you no longer read your life through old memories, but through a new light now being placed within you. The things that once caused you to doubt yourself will begin to lose their hold. The voices that once made you hesitate will no longer carry the same weight they once did. You will come to see something very clearly. What I have placed within you has not diminished with time. It has only been waiting for the appointed moment to be activated through the maturity of your soul. For if I had unveiled it too soon, you would have misunderstood it. But when I unveil it at the right time, you will be able to stand firm. Do not rush to look for outward signs to confirm what is happening within. For the greatest work taking place is not in your circumstances, but in the deep places where I am reshaping your very being. You are no longer merely someone waiting for the promise. You are becoming someone capable of walking into that promise. And remember this, my child, the movement of heaven is not loud, but it is never late. It arrives at the right time, breaks the right chains, and opens the very door you could never have opened by your own strength. So do not return to your former state simply because it feels familiar. Do not draw back just because you cannot yet see the whole picture. I am leading you into a new order, one in which you no longer live from confusion, but from the clear knowing that you are being led. Stand firm in this moment, not because you understand everything, but because your name has been called in a time that heaven appointed long before you knew you would hear it. If you receive this as a calling rising from the deep places of your inner being, then it is not meant to draw you into some vague mystical feeling, but to help you look back on your journey through a more mature lens, one through which the things that once seemed like delay begin to reveal the structure of preparation. There are seasons in life when the surface is completely quiet, while deep beneath something is being profoundly reorganized. You may call it hiddenness, waiting, or not being seen, but if you look more closely, it is often the very time in which your value system, your psychological resilience, and your capacity to carry responsibilities greater than your present self are being reshaped. The feeling that others are moving ahead while I remain still is a very common experience in long seasons of growth. Yet it often deceives perception. What you are seeing are only the visible results, while the foundational work in each life unfolds at an entirely different pace and with a completely different structure. Some are built quickly, but shallowly. Others are built slowly, but deeply. And in the end, it is depth, not speed, that determines how much weight a life can bear. If you are in a season where outward things have not yet opened as you expected, that does not automatically mean you have been left behind. It may simply be a season of foundational accumulation, where you are learning not only how to attain something, but how to remain steady enough to sustain it when it comes. What matters most is not whether you are in the right cosmic timing in some mystical sense, but whether you are becoming inwardly stable enough to step into the very responsibilities you say you desire. For if a door opens before you are ready, it is not necessarily a blessing, it may become an overload. And sometimes, what you call hiddenness is actually a form of protection from breaking too soon, so that you do not lose yourself in environments or roles for which your inner world is not yet stable enough to hold. This does not dismiss the emotions of waiting, it simply places them within a wider frame. You are not being excluded from the process. You are being formed within it. If you look back, you may eventually realize that the things which once confused you, slowed you down, or made you doubt yourself later became the foundation of your calmness, your discernment, or your endurance. And that is a sign of a process governed by order, not chaos. So, instead of only asking, "When will I step out?" perhaps the deeper question is, "Who am I becoming in this season?" For it is the person being formed in you now, not any outward moment, that will determine how you walk into what lies ahead. There are stretches of the road you have walked that seem to be nothing but silence, until your heart asked again and again why heaven appeared so restrained, why the prayers you had only just lifted up seemed to dissolve into the night, and why the days you endured in secret carried no sign that any door was beginning to move. But I want you to quiet your heart and hear this clearly. Not one hidden season of your life has been wasted. Not one veiled day has been without purpose. And not one tear has fallen without being held in my eternal remembrance. As it is written, "You number my wanderings, put my tears into your bottle. Are they not in your book?" Every time you were weary and still chose to rise. Every time you understood nothing and yet refused to let go of faith. Every time you kept your heart upright where no one could see. I saw it all. What you called small things, I called foundation stones of a maturing soul. What you believed was abandonment was, in truth, the very place where I was quietly weaving depth into your spirit, so that you would not only be strong enough to receive blessing, but stable enough to carry what I am preparing to place upon your life. So, do not be quick to conclude that silence is a sign that I have withdrawn from you. There are times when, precisely in the moments when you hear nothing, my hand is working most powerfully. There are doors that have not yet opened, not because I am denying you, but because I am shielding you from things that exceed your present level of maturity. If I were to place them in your hands too soon, you would mistake them for glory, when in truth, they could become a weight heavy enough to break what is still tender and not yet healed within you. If I were to let you step in immediately, you might take pride in how quickly it came, only to collapse later for lack of deep roots. So the delays you once resented have often been mercy standing guard around your life. As it is written, "To everything there is a season, and a time to every purpose under heaven." I am not slow in the way you imagine. I simply do not move according to the clocks of men. I do all things in their proper season, so that when grace is poured out, it does not overwhelm you, but causes you to blossom, and so that when the door opens, you do not walk through it with the trembling of someone unprepared, but with the peace of one who has been shaped in the hidden place. Remember the story of Elijah, my child. Even after he had witnessed mighty demonstrations of power, his heart still descended into a place of deep weariness, and he hid himself in a cave. He waited for God in the great wind, in the earthquake, and in the fire. Yet the Lord was not in those violent displays, and afterward came the still small voice. And there he received a fresh word for his journey. Do you see? Not every time I come do I come with thunder and upheaval. There are times when I come like the gentlest breath, like light slipping through the cracks of a door, like a quiet certainty settling in your heart in the middle of the night. You once thought that only what was dazzling could prove that I was at work. But I am teaching you that my hiddenness can be more powerful than outward display. It was in Elijah's cave, in the place where he thought he had come to the end of himself, that I did not finish with him. I recommissioned him. And in the same way, in the place where you think there is only weariness, I am preparing the next calling. In the place where you think only ashes remain, I am still preserving a flame that the winds of life cannot put out. So do not be ashamed of the seasons when no one knows your name. No one praises you, and no one sees your faithfulness. Heaven does not measure a life by the noise of the crowd. I look upon what is hidden, and it is there. in the hidden place, that I measure the depth of a person. As it is written, your Father, who sees in secret, will reward you. This means that your reward is not found only in an outward result, but also in the widening of your soul, the softening of your heart, and the refining of your faith like gold in the fire. I am not looking for a life that shines outwardly while remaining hollow within. I am building in you a holy inner strength, so that when the day of revealing comes, you will not be ruined by the leaven of pride, nor pulled back by fear. You are not losing time. You are being formed. You are not trapped in a silence. You are being held in the hands of the one who knows exactly what you need. And the time will come when you understand that the things that seem small were used by me as witnesses of a far greater preparation. A moment when you forgave while your heart still ached. A moment when you chose silence to preserve gentleness instead of answering in bitterness. A moment when you kept praying, though nothing appeared to change. A moment when you did what was right, even when no one praised you. All of it became a fragrance rising before me. Do not despise those hidden seeds, for the harvest does not come from one sudden day, but from many quiet days gathered together in obedience. As it is written, he who is faithful in what is least is faithful also in much. When I entrust more to you, I will not base it on what you say about yourself, but on the truth that was proven in the days with no spotlight, no audience, and no reward. It was there that you showed that your soul loved me more than recognition, loved truth more than comfort, and loved the will of heaven more than the quick demands of your own desires. Therefore, if today you are still walking through a field of mist, stop accusing yourself of having lost your way. No, you have never been forgotten outside of my plan. You may not yet see the map, but I am still leading you. You may not understand the full picture, but every one of your steps remains before my eyes. I do not take you the long way around to exhaust you. I lead you through hidden paths to spare you from things you are not yet meant to carry. There are battles that, if you entered them too soon, would crush your courage. There are heights that, if you climbed them too quickly, would leave you dizzy for lack of a firm foundation. So I have held you back, not to make you smaller, but to make you deeper. I have covered you, not because you are unworthy, but because what is prepared for you requires a person refined in both tenderness and strength. And when the day I have appointed arrives, you will realize that no stretch of the road was nameless, and no wound was meaningless, and no silence was empty. I was there from beginning to end. Now, what I want from you is not to force a door open by your own strength, nor to sit down in despair because you have not yet seen the dawn. Keep your heart pure. Keep your eyes lifted upward, and keep your hands from letting go of faith. Let your soul rest in this promise. But those who wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. You do not live by outward signals. You live by my faithfulness. And I, the one who began a work in you, will not leave it unfinished halfway through. When the hour of awakening I have appointed arrives, what was once hidden will no longer remain hidden. What was prepared in tears will bloom in glory, and the pathways you thought were lost will appear in the light of heaven. Then you will know that silence was never distance, but the workshop of heaven. Delay was never refusal, but the armor of mercy and your hidden season. In the end, was the cradle I used to prepare you for something greater than yourself. There comes a moment in the journey when you no longer fully belong to yesterday, yet have not completely touched tomorrow. And it is at that point of crossing that your soul often trembles, caught between a longing for what is familiar and a pull toward what is new. And today, I want you to understand deeply that you are standing exactly at that point of movement. This is not a random surge of emotion, nor a passing disturbance of the heart. This is an hour I appointed long ago. The moment when what I buried deep within your spirit begins to stir and rise. For so long, you have been used to seeing yourself through the lens of pain, through disappointments, through dark seasons that seem to carry no answer. But now I am teaching you to see yourself again in the light of divine choosing. You are not merely one who has endured. You are not merely a soul that has survived a long night. You are one whom I have set apart, preserved, refined, and reserved for a moment of revealing. As it is written, "Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord has risen upon you." That word was not only for a people in ancient days. Today it is touching the deepest part of you, the place where I have always kept your true identity, untouched by the dust of the world. So do not think that what is coming is merely a gentle outward change, like putting on a new garment or stepping into a more comfortable setting. No, my child, there are seasons when I do not simply change your circumstances, I touch the very structure of your inner being. There are times when I do not merely open a new door, but shake loose everything old that still clings to the way you think, the way you see, and the way you measure yourself. What is coming bears the nature of a shaking from heaven. Just as when the dry bones in the valley heard the word spoken and began to move. As it is written in Ezekiel, when the prophecy went forth, there was a sound, a rattling, and the bones came together. Do you see? Before life is fully revealed, there is often first a shaking. That shaking does not come to destroy you, but to gather what has been scattered, to raise what has lain still, and to call forth what has long slept beneath ashes. So, if in these days your heart feels unable to remain as it once was, if something within you is pushing with strange urgency so that you can no longer accept living beneath what I have appointed for you, that is not meaningless instability. It is the call of life striking against old walls. I know there have been memories that made you shrink back. There have been words spoken by others that cast such a long shadow over your mind that you began to mistake them for truth. There have been failures, seasons of being misunderstood, and long stretches of waiting that taught you to limit yourself so you would not be hurt again. But I say to you now, you no longer have the right to live inside your old definition of yourself. When I called Gideon, he was still hiding in fear, still seeing himself as the least within his father's house. And yet I called him a mighty man of valor. I did not call him according to his present condition. I called him according to what I had already ordained within him. And so it is with you. I do not look at you through the fragments life has left behind. I look at you through my eternal intention. You may once have lived like someone merely trying to survive, but you were not born only to survive. You were called to carry my presence, to bear light, and to walk in the authority of one who knows to whom they belong. For we are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should walk in them. So when I tell you to rise, I am not asking you to invent a new identity. I am awakening what I placed within you from the beginning. This also means that you are coming to the boundary where your old fears no longer have the right to rule over you. I am not saying that every memory will disappear at once, or that every battle in your mind will suddenly be gone, but I am saying they will no longer sit on the throne of your heart. A separation is taking place. On one side is the old season, with its familiar patterns of doubt, delay, withdrawal, and self-reduction. On the other side is the new season, where you learn to stand upright in the light of my word. Just as Israel, when crossing the Jordan, did not merely change location, but crossed the line between wandering and the beginning of promise made visible. So it is with you. The waters did not part before they stepped forward in obedience. The river opened when the feet of the priests touched the edge. Write that deeply upon your soul. There are revelations that only happen when you dare to move forward. I do not require you to understand everything before you believe. I teach you to believe enough to step. And in the stepping, you will see the way open. The righteous shall live by faith. That is not a phrase meant merely to comfort your emotions. It is the rhythm of life for one who is led by heaven. So if there is now within you a stirring you cannot quite name, do not rush to silence it because you fear change. If your heart feels restless, as though something significant is drawing near, do not assume it is merely emotional exhaustion. Many times it is I myself stirring the waters within you so that you will no longer sleep peacefully inside what is merely familiar. I do this with those I love. I awaken before I send. I shake before I establish. I touch depth before I open breadth. Remember the story of the boy Samuel in the temple. In the middle of the night, when everything seemed still, he heard his name being called. At first he did not recognize it, but the call did not disappear. It returned until he answered, "Speak, for your servant is listening." My child, the calling upon your life is like that. It does not come to terrify you, but to awaken your ability to respond. It is not an alarm of disaster. It is an invitation into maturity. And what I am looking for in you is not instant perfection, but a heart that knows how to say, "Lord, here I am." So do not look back at the ashes as though they were your final identity. Ashes are only the evidence of what has already burned through. They are not a prophecy of what still lies ahead. I can take the very place of greatest ruin and build a new altar there. I can turn the part of you that once shrank under pain into a place from which mercy flows for others. I can make an old battlefield become a living testimony of my power to renew. Hear this as though it were spoken from the very heart of a father laid upon your life. Your hour has come not because you have done everything perfectly, but because the time I appointed has reached its fullness. The invisible chains that once tightened around your mind will no longer prove stronger than my word. The limitations others once placed upon you will no longer outweigh the purpose I have written over your life. The dark nights you once passed through will no longer be your dwelling place. They will remain only as witnesses that I have preserved you this far. So, rise. With gentleness, yet with resolve. Lay down the old image of yourself. Let the dust of the past fall from your shoulders. Allow my word to become stronger than the noise of memory. For behold, I am reaching out my hand before you, not to force you, but to lead you across this sacred boundary. And when you place your hand in mine, you will understand that awakening is not a burst of emotion that flares and fades, but the moment a soul recognizes the voice of the one who called it from the beginning. From this point on, you will no longer live like one merely waiting for everything to change. You will live like one who has heard the call and has begun to move in response to it. Light is touching you. Glory is calling your name. And what I hid within you from the beginning is rising now to step into its appointed day. There are great works of heaven that do not begin with the dazzling displays people often expect. They do not always arrive with loud sounds, nor do they always begin with doors suddenly flung open or with an immediate flood of triumphant feeling. Very often, the first thing I do in a soul I am preparing for transition is to touch the deepest, quietest, most hidden place within it. I do not hasten to lift you before the eyes of others while there are still open wounds within you, while there are still parts of you drawn tight and not yet softened, while small fears with deep roots are still silently shaping the way you think, the way you love, and the way you receive what is good. And so, before my hand lifts you to a higher place, my mercy often stoops very low to soften the part of your soul that has grown hard through the passing years. As it is written, I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit within you. I will remove from you your heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. Do you see? The opening miracle is not first in changed circumstances, but in your heart beginning to breathe in a new rhythm. When I truly begin to transition your life, you will notice a deep quieting within yourself, not because every storm outside has fallen silent, but because a stream of peace from me is beginning to flow into the places that have long remained tense and hardened. It is there that the quiet birth of a new season begins. I want you to understand that inner healing is not a secondary step, nor is it a pause at the margins before something greater begins. No, it is a sacred, necessary, foundational part of preparation. A soul still living under the yoke of old pain will tremble easily when faced with something new. A heart still accustomed to shrinking back will not be wide enough to receive the responsibility, glory, and spiritual weight I desire to entrust to it. That is why I do not only open the way before you, I also enlarge the space within you. I teach you to stop reacting from your wounds and to begin responding from healing. I teach you to stop viewing life through eyes worn down by self-protection and to begin seeing through the light of faith. You may not be able to name exactly what is changing, but you will begin to feel that you are no longer so easily suffocated as before, no longer dragged down by the same memories as before, no longer quick to panic at the sound of the wind as before. That is the sign that I am rearranging you. As it is written, He restores my soul. I do this work before others even realize that something new is coming upon your life. I restore the rhythm within you before I open the door outside you, because I do not want what I give to become a burden to you. I want it to become the natural continuation of a soul that has been made ready. Picture a long winter covering a forest, with frost resting quietly on the branches, on the pathways, and on the hardened ground. Spring does not rush in with a single breath. Ice does not melt all at once. First, there comes a very slight warmth, quiet and hidden, almost impossible to detect with the eye. But the trees feel it, the earth feels it, the roots feel it, and then, layer by layer, the cold gives way to life, rising again from within. So it is with you, my beloved. Many past seasons have left thin layers of ice upon your soul, often more than you yourself fully realize. They may be old disappointments, words of judgment once spoken over you, prayers you thought had gone unanswered, wounds that taught you to be cautious, even with joy itself. But when the hour of transition draws near, I do not necessarily erase all those memories from your mind. Instead, I pour my light upon them until they no longer hold enough power to keep you bound. The past remains as part of the story, but it no longer sits upon the throne, ruling your present. As it is written, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Darkness does not always disappear from the landscape at once, but when a greater light begins to appear, darkness loses its dominion. That is a miracle both subtle and profound. I do not make you into someone who was never wounded. I make you into someone who is no longer defined by the wound. And as that softening takes place, you will begin to notice another change. Your spiritual breathing becomes deeper. Not because your circumstances have suddenly become easier, but because my life is expanding the chest of your spirit. The things that once sent you into panic no longer shake you as easily as they did before. The shadows that once stretched long across your mind now appear only as shadows. They are no longer substantial forces with power to bind you. This is how I break the power of fear, not always by removing every visible cause from before your eyes, but by establishing within you a peace stronger than the cause itself. As it is written, for God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. When that spirit is at work within you, the things that once threatened you will begin to shrink, not because they suddenly disappear from the world, but because they are no longer able to magnify themselves within your inner life. I change the scale of everything by my presence. Fear contracts when truth grows. Darkness recedes when your heart no longer agrees with it. A wound loses its ruling voice when I place over it a new meaning, a new light, and a new word. Do not be afraid if the process unfolds slowly. My beloved, do not lose heart on days when all you can see are very small changes. This is the nature of deep works. They are not noisy, yet they are enduring. They are not rushed, yet they are never mistimed. I do not heal you at the surface. I go down to the root. I do not merely want you to appear strong. I want you to be truly renewed in the deepest part of yourself. And so, little by little, I teach you to release what once constricted your heart. Little by little, I cover old memories with my kindness until what once caused pain remains only as a witness to the power of restoration. Just as Joseph was later able to look back on the pit, the chains, and the forgotten years and say that what others intended for harm, God had turned for good. So I will also lead you to the place where you can look back on your dark seasons without trembling as you once did. You will not deny what happened, but you will no longer live under its authority. The past is not erased, it is redeemed. So if today you sense within yourself a very slight warmth, a wordless softening, a rhythm of peace beginning to rise even while your circumstances remain unchanged, then know that my hand is at work. This is not a small thing. It is the opening word of a sacred transition. I am healing you before I enlarge you. I am softening you before I lift you. I am making the light within you stronger than the old places of darkness, so that when the appointed time comes, you will not step into the future as one still chained to yesterday, but as one who has been set free to carry what is new. Let me continue this work. Rest in me. Believe that this quiet change is real, even if your eyes do not yet see it in full. For it is from that place of stillness that the new season will begin to bloom. And your soul will know, the one who touched the inside will also fulfill what he has ordained on the outside. There are times when you think the heaviness returning is a sign that you have gone off course. That sudden pressure rising in your soul is proof that everything is unraveling, and that the feeling of being stretched between invisible movements can only mean that something is wrong. But I want you to change your way of seeing, because in many holy seasons, the very things that once made you hesitate become the signs that you are drawing nearer to the place I have appointed for you. When a ship leaves calm waters and begins to enter a stronger current, it does not feel less force. It feels more. The body of the vessel trembles. The steering must be adjusted again and again, and the water seems to lose the gentleness it once had. Yet, that does not mean the ship has lost its way. On the contrary, it is a sign that it is entering the deep stream. It was made to travel. So it is with you. My beloved, when I begin leading you into the deeper reaches of your calling, you may feel collisions more sharply, stirrings more intensely, and pressures that seem difficult to explain. But those things are not necessarily opposition sent to destroy you. Often they are the confirmation that your soul is being drawn away from the old shore and into a greater current. As it is written, launch out into the deep. That call has never been a call into comfort. It has always been an invitation into a place that requires greater faith, deeper obedience, and a trust placed more fully in my hand than in outward calm. Remember the moment when Peter stepped out of the boat onto the sea. It was not a comfortable moment, nor one that made sense to the natural mind. Behind him was what was familiar. Before him was what no one had ever walked. The water did not become solid according to the laws of dry ground. The circumstances still looked impossible. Yet, it was in the middle of that very impossibility that my power was revealed. Do you see? My child, there are seasons when you are not called to go back to the old place, even though it is familiar, and at the same time, You still cannot fully see the far shore ahead. That is the place where faith must rise. It is as though you are crossing a suspended bridge between two shores. Behind you is a land you are no longer meant to remain in. And before you is what I have prepared, though your eyes cannot yet see it clearly enough. That bridge may tremble beneath your feet. The wind may sweep through it and make your heart want to cling to what is behind. And the emptiness below may stir the old instinct in you to retreat. But I say to you, the shaking you feel is not proof that the bridge will break. It is only the sign that you are no longer standing on the old ground. And that is necessary, because you cannot enter what is new while still trying to preserve the certainty of yesterday. My beloved, I want you to know that the bridge carrying you through this season has not been built from the fragile guesses of men. It has been woven from my promises. From every time I kept you in silence, from every lesson you passed through in hidden seasons, and from every tear that became a seed of maturity. Every cord holding that bridge is a faithfulness you once believed no one saw. Every plank beneath your feet is a moment when you chose obedience without fully understanding. Every step you take now is a testimony that you are trusting me more than your own fear. Just as Abraham left his land, not knowing where he was going, and yet still walked because he trusted the one who had called him. So you too are learning that same spiritual lesson. You do not need to see the whole road in order to walk it with steadiness. You only need to hold fast to the one who is leading you. True transition does not require you to control the journey. It invites you to surrender the journey to me. There may come moments when you look back and realize that the things behind you no longer belong to you. Old ways of thinking can no longer contain the new vision. Old fears no longer fit the identity I am awakening within you. Ways of living that were only designed for survival no longer suit a person called to walk in spiritual authority and inward maturity. At times, this may make you feel sorrow, not because the old was better, but because it was more familiar. Yet I gently remind you that what is familiar is not always what truly belongs to you. The people of Israel became so accustomed to the wilderness that even when I led them toward the promise, their hearts often longed to turn back. But I did not save my people so they could remain circling the edge of destiny forever. I brought them out in order to bring them in. I am bringing you out of the old, not to leave you suspended, but to lead you into the place where you truly belong. The Lord will fight for you, and you shall hold your peace. That peace is not passivity. It is a deep inner rest while your feet continue to move in obedience to my word. So do not call this pressure punishment. Do not call this stirring failure. Do not call this feeling of being stretched a sign that you are losing your way. Learn to read it in my light. This is deep water. This is the bridge of promise. This is the hour of refinement. I am teaching you to discern between the chaos of the flesh and the movement of the spirit. One pulls you apart, the other rebuilds you. One draws you away from truth, the other leads you into a deeper truth. When I touch your life, things may not remain still in the way they once did. But afterward you will discover that your soul is becoming more ordered, more clear, more spacious, and more at peace. Just as a refiner heats gold not to destroy it, but to separate what is impure from it. So I allow certain pressures to pass through your life, not to break you, but to purify you for what comes next. And now, hear this word as an anchor for your spirit. You cannot fall out of what is held in my hand. You may not understand the full length of the bridge, and you may not yet see clearly how the far side is opening. But the one standing ahead is still me. The one who kept you through hidden seasons is still me. The one who did not let you drown in the long nights is still me. So this bridge may make you tremble, but it will not betray you. The waters beneath your feet may be deep, but they do not lie beyond the boundaries I have set. When you pass through the waters, I will be with you. That is not a beautiful phrase meant for momentary comfort. It is a covenant covering every step you are taking. Keep walking. even if slowly. As long as you do not turn back in fear, hold on to every cord of promise, every testimony of faithfulness I have already shown in your life, every memory of how I carried you through former seasons. For those very things will remind you that supernatural transition may not be easy, but it is always secure. And you, my beloved child, are not being left suspended in empty space. You are being carried across by the very hand that never lets go. You once thought you were slower than others, and you looked at your own steps with the anxiety of someone afraid of missing the train of destiny. But I am teaching you that any soul that belongs to me does not live by the hurried clock of the world. I do not measure your life by how quickly others obtain what they desire. I measure you by the depth of what I am forming within you. Some arrive quickly, yet cannot stand for long. Some doors open too early and become burdens, because the one who enters is not yet steady enough to bear them. But as for you, I have held you back, not because you are of lesser worth, but because my mercy saw storms your eyes could not yet see. There were impacts that would have broken you had you stepped in too soon. There were violent winds that would have swept you away from the portion I ordained for you if you had arrived before the appointed time. So the fact that I kept you in certain seasons was never forgetfulness, it was protection. As it is written, "The Lord shall preserve you from all evil, he shall preserve your soul." And now, as you look back, you will begin to realize that I did not close certain paths in order to wound you, but that I shut what was not yet fitting so that you would not be harmed by the very things you once thought you desperately needed. And then there will come a time when you begin to sense that inward doors are moving within you, not with physical sound, not with signs displayed to the natural eye, but with a quiet opening in the deep places of your soul. Dreams you once buried beneath the soil of self-doubt will begin to stir like seeds meeting the first rain of a new season. Things you once did not dare to imagine because you believed yourself unworthy will no longer feel distant. The limitations that once sealed off the way you viewed the future will begin to crack beneath my light. This is one of the greatest wonders of spiritual transition. Before an outward door swings open, the inner heart must first learn how to open. Just as Lydia in the book of Acts had her heart opened by the Lord before she stepped into the new part of her journey and received the word of life, so I do the same with you. I open your heart before I open your path. I weaken the power of what once made you shrink back, so that when opportunity, divine encounters, responsibility, and revelation arrive, you will not retreat because of your own fear. An open heart is always a sign that heaven is moving. And once that opening has begun within you, it will not remain confined to your inner world, but will move outward through your life, like gentle ripples spreading across a lake when a single drop touches the surface. You will see old connections naturally drift out of reach, not because you have become less loving, nor because those people were entirely without meaning, but because not everything that belongs to one season is permitted to cross into the next. Some relationships were sufficient for the former journey, but do not have the strength to continue with you where I am now leading you. Do not grieve too deeply when certain things leave quietly. Understand that I am lightening your load so that you may travel farther. There will also be doors that open without your having to knock endlessly, because my wind has gone before you. Meetings that appear accidental will carry within them divine arrangement. Spaces you once thought you did not belong in will suddenly feel familiar in a strange and holy way, as if I had quietly reserved a place for you long ago. You will stand in moments that astonish even you, because you did not realize that, amidst all these years, I had been preparing your inner life for that very hour. That is not chance. As it is written, a man's heart devises his way, but the Lord directs his steps. There are footsteps that seem random in the eyes of others, but with me, they are the result of a design written in grace. Remember the story of Joseph, my child. Before he stood in the palace, before the doors of authority opened, A profound transition had already taken place within him through years of betrayal, obscurity, testing, and delay. If one looked only at the surface, it would have been called lateness, but heaven called it preparation. When his hour came, he entered places he had never imagined would become his, met people he had never imagined he would meet, and stood in a position he could never have created for himself. That was not luck. That was the movement of heaven. In the same way, your life is being woven through intersections that you do not yet fully understand. But I understand them, and I am leading you toward them. So do not be afraid when you see yourself changing in the way you view yourself, in the pulse of your dreams, in the shifting of relationships, and in the invisible doors beginning to move open. This is not random. This is my hand at work from the inside outward. I am healing you, redefining you, and strengthening you. I am turning delay into evidence of protection, turning withdrawal into openness, and turning fear into space where faith can grow. And then you will understand, transition is not only what I do around your life, but first what I do within your heart. For when your heart is opened, when the way you see yourself has been renewed, and when your soul no longer agrees with old limitations, then the outward doors become only the reflection of the work I have already completed within. So take heart and keep walking. For the one who is opening your heart is the same one who is opening your way. And there will come a time when you understand that what I am doing in your life cannot be contained within a single moment, as though one brilliant second could complete everything. No, my beloved, supernatural transition is not merely a door that swings open and then closes behind you. It is a living flow, continuous, quiet yet powerful, gentle yet impossible to resist. It is like a river that does not need to be loud in order to transform the land through which it runs. Its waters do not merely skim the surface, they build up the banks, soften what has grown hard, fill what has been cracked open, and bring forth life where only dust seemed to remain. So it is when I lead you into the current of a new season. I do not simply alter a few outward events and then leave you to manage your soul on your own. I make my very presence the river that surrounds you, sustains you, guides you, and renews you day by day. What I want you to learn is not how to hold on to blessing by your own strength, but how to rest deeply enough to live rightly within what I am doing. You do not need to strain yourself trying to hold water in your hands. You only need to remain in the current I have appointed, and let my grace carry you to the place my will has prepared. As it is written, there is a river, the streams whereof shall make glad the city of God. That river does not flow only around my dwelling place. It brings joy, order, and life wherever it goes. So transition is not something that draws you away from me, but something that leads you deeper into my heart, until you no longer know my love merely as doctrine, but as living experience in every breath you take. And as you go deeper into that current, you will realize that all the healing that came before was only the beginning of something greater. I softened your heart so that you could receive. I opened your spirit so that you could hear. I strengthened what was within you so that you could carry what is coming. But now, I am bringing you deeper still, where transition is no longer merely a bridge between an old season and a new one, but becomes a living pathway into full awakening. This is not simply about rising after a weary stretch of life. This is the unveiling of a new day within your soul. It is like the first beam of sunlight breaking through a heavy mist without shouting, yet powerful enough to declare that the night has passed. You are no longer merely recovering, you are awakening. You are no longer only being repaired where you were damaged, you are being invited into a new state of life, where you see everything in the light of heaven rather than through the shadows of yesterday. As it is written, behold, Old things have passed away. Behold, all things have become new. And that newness is not found first in circumstance, but in your understanding of me, of yourself, and of why I placed you in this world. I want you to picture yourself as a seed that has lain hidden in the soil for a long time. To outside eyes, that seed seems to have disappeared, as though it has been buried, forgotten, swallowed into a darkness with no way out. But I know what the soil is doing. I know what the long night is nurturing. I know that the seed is not dying without purpose. It is absorbing, cracking open, submitting to a hidden process so that life may emerge at the appointed time. So it is with you. Hidden seasons are not wasted years of your life. They are the place where I have caused your roots to go deep. The nights when you understood nothing were not empty pages without value. They were hours in which I was quietly preparing what is about to unfold. And now, as you step into full awakening, you will no longer see that darkness as the place where you were buried, but as the place that carried you. As it is written, unless a grain of wheat falls into the ground and dies, it remains alone, but if it dies, it bears much fruit. I did not leave you in the ground so that you would vanish. I placed you there so that you could bring forth what surface light alone could never produce. So when I lift you now, I do not lift you so that you may stand still like a monument, merely displaying yourself before the eyes of others. I lift you so that you may become a channel through which life flows. I do not only want you to be touched, I want others, through you, to begin sensing the warmth of heaven as well. I do not only want you to be one who has received mercy, I want your life to become a testimony that opens other hearts to that same mercy. There are souls that will not be awakened by a great sermon alone, but by the peace upon your face. There are hearts that will not return because of argument, but because they see in your walk something that does not belong to this world. Just as a small flame in a cold room can quietly change the entire atmosphere, the life I have placed within you will touch regions of other souls in ways you yourself cannot fully measure. As it is written, you are the light of the world. Light does not need to strive to prove that it is light. It only needs to be present. And darkness must retreat. In the same way, your true influence does not come from how loudly you speak, but from the source breathing through you, living within you, and sending you forth. Remember the story of the Samaritan woman at the well. She came there carrying an old history, an old thirst, and a life that had long been viewed through limiting eyes. Yet one true encounter with Christ did something wondrous. Not only was her thirst touched, but she herself became the bearer of news, the one who stirred an entire city. And that did not begin on a great stage, but at a well, in a conversation that reached the deepest part of her being. Do you see? My child, when I truly awaken a soul, influence is no longer something it must strain to produce. Influence becomes the natural outflow of real transformation. She did not go because she wished to make an impression. She went because living water had begun to rise within her. And I am doing the same with you. I am not only healing you so that your heart may feel lighter, nor only transitioning you so that your position may change. I am awakening you so that you may become one who carries the river of living water into other places. So, my beloved, do not reduce the meaning of this season to a few favorable events or a few new doors appearing. What I am doing is far greater than that. I am changing your understanding of my love for you. In the past, you may have thought that love was only comfort in your weakness, only the hand that kept you from falling. But now I want you to know that my love is also the power that sends you, the breath that causes you to overflow, the source that turns you from one who was rescued into one who carries life. I love you not only to heal you, but to reveal my glory through you. I love you not only to draw you out of darkness, but to make you a sign of light to those who are still feeling their way through the night. And when you begin to walk in that understanding, you will no longer live like someone afraid of having nothing to give. You will know that the greatest thing you carry is not talent, not voice, not position, but my very breath at work within your life. So, let this current continue to carry you. Stop resisting because of your fear of losing control. Let my love teach you how to yield yourself to my faithfulness. For the deeper you go in my flow, the nearer you will come to my heart. And the nearer you come to my heart, the more fully you will become who you truly are, according to heaven's original design. Full awakening is opening before you now. You were not chosen merely to survive the old season. You were called to illuminate the new one. You were not only drawn out of hiddenness, you were sent forth like a flame carrying the warmth of heaven. And then the cold regions of the souls around you will begin to realize that something has changed. Not because you have exalted yourself, but because my breath is touching them through you. This is the deepest part of the journey, not only to be healed, not only to be transitioned, but to be fully awakened, to live, to overflow, and to reveal my everlasting love in the midst of the world. There are words that leave human lips and dissolve into the air, thin as the morning mist and light as a dry leaf carried away by the wind. But when I speak over your life concerning elevation, it does not belong to that kind of speech. It is not a passing inspiration, not a vague desire, nor a beautiful notion meant only to soothe your heart for a few fragile moments. When I declare a spiritual promotion over your life, it is a command sealed by the authority of heaven, a decree born not from temporary emotion but from an intention I have long held within my heart. Therefore, do not look upon this change as though it were only a breeze that passes and disappears. See it instead as a sacred mark, resetting your position in both the unseen and the visible realms. As it is written, I have put my words in your mouth and covered you with the shadow of my hand. Once my word has been set in place, it does not return empty. It begins to work in the deep places, repositioning you, opening your eyes, changing the rhythm of your steps, and causing the things that once had power to restrain you to gradually lose their grip. You will not need to strive to pretend that you have changed. You will recognize that difference from within, like a warrior who, after long training, suddenly realizes that his body no longer moves with its former clumsiness, but with a steadiness forged in secret. I want you to understand that this season is like the moment when a soldier is stripped of an old armor that was once necessary for an earlier stage of training. There were things that once protected you, but no longer suit the path into which I am now leading you. There were layers of defense you once wore because you feared being wounded, habits of withdrawal that helped you survive hard seasons, and ways of overcautious thinking that once kept you from breaking even further in past years. But now, as I bring you into another level, I will not allow you to continue dressed in that heaviness. You no longer need to keep what only belonged to the season of fighting, merely to survive. I am removing from you the old layers that no longer fit your new identity. And as you begin to walk, you will be astonished to find that the things which once held your feet down no longer carry the same weight. The restraints that once made you step back, the anxieties that once slowed you, the voices that once caused your heart to shrink, these will no longer hold you as they once did. Not because you have become hard in the flesh, but because a real transformation has taken place within you. As it is written, if the Son therefore shall make you free, ye shall be free indeed. And that freedom is not only release from visible chains, but also release from the invisible patterns that once bound your perception, your responses, and your vision. And one of the clearest signs of that lifting is that your eyes begin to see differently. What you once only sensed vaguely will now begin to take clearer shape within your spirit. There are things you once only perceived inwardly but did not dare to name. Now I'm causing you to see them with deeper discernment. You begin to read the atmosphere of a place, to recognize the nature of a connection, to understand when a door is being opened by heaven and when something is only a temporary attraction of the world. I am awakening in you the ability to see beyond the surface. Just as Elisha prayed for his servant and his eyes were opened to see the mountain full of horses and chariots of fire all around, so I am touching your spiritual sight so that you may no longer fear what the natural eye sees, but begin to rest in what the unseen realm is confirming. As it is written, "They that be with us are more than they that be with them." The one who is lifted does not only change position, that person also changes vision. And because your eyes are being adjusted, your mind can no longer continue living by the old rhythm. My beloved, I do not want you ever to separate elevation from the demand that comes with it. The higher you rise, the more clearly the wind is felt, the more visible the place to which you are appointed, the more firmly you must be grounded in the hidden life. A watchtower set on high ground is no longer sheltered by the low trees. It catches the wind first, sees farther, and yet endures stronger testing. This is not meant to frighten you, but to keep you awake and sober. I do not lift you up only to abandon you in harsh winds. I lift you because I know your foundation has been built through many unseen seasons, and those new winds are not meant to throw you down, but to reveal that your footing is not set on sand. As it is written, "The wise man built his house upon the rock. When the rain fell, the flood came, and the winds beat against that house. It did not fall, because it had been founded on what was firm." So too, the trials of a new season are not a sign that you have been forsaken. Often they are the opportunity for what I have built within you to be proven. But for that to happen, you can no longer live by your former patterns. Therefore, guard your words. For in this season, every word you release carries more weight than you realize. Guard your actions, because each step you take affects not only your own path, but can either open a way or raise a barrier for others. When I place a clearer measure of my presence upon you, your life is no longer private in the narrow sense. It becomes a lamp set upon a stand. Wherever light appears, darkness does not merely retreat, it also resists. That is why you must remain watchful. Not watchful in fear, but in clarity. Not tense with obsession, but alert because you know you are carrying what is holy. Remember Nehemiah, when he built the wall, one hand labored and the other held a weapon. That is your image in this season. You continue moving forward. Continue building. Continue answering the call. And yet at the same time you keep your soul awake, refusing to let distraction, pride, or exhaustion slip in and damage what I am establishing. So, my beloved, do not treat this promotion as a reward in which you may rest in self-satisfaction. See it instead as a deeper call into maturity. I am placing you in a season where your eyes see more clearly. Your steps carry more weight. Your presence bears greater impact. And therefore your watchfulness must deepen as well. But do not be afraid of that, because the one who has lifted you is the same one who keeps you standing. I do not call you into a new place and then leave you to defend yourself by your own strength. I am the shield around you, the rock beneath your feet, the fresh oil upon your head, the whisper reminding you which path to take. Walk, then, in humility, in sensitivity, and in obedience. For when I declare your elevation, it is not merely so that you may see from a higher place, it is so that you may live nearer to me, know me more clearly, and reveal me in a world that needs light more than ever. My beloved, when I call your name, I do not merely open a path before you to walk, nor simply appoint a destination for you to reach. I am calling you into the very spiritual form I intended for you from the beginning. I do not call you merely to hold a fragile spark and tremble while trying to protect it from the winds of life. I call you to become a living flame, a flame carrying the breath of heaven within it, able to warm what is cold, illuminate what is dark, and awaken what has slept too long in the human soul. I do not simply invite you to drink from the river of life to satisfy your own thirst. I am opening a spring within you, so that freshness may flow from your life into others. Nor do I only let you hear my call from afar like a beautiful sound passing through a moment. I am reshaping your very being so that you may become the echo of my word in the earth. Therefore, when you step into the hour of awakening I have appointed, you will begin to realize that life no longer feels as light as it once did. Every word you speak carries weight. Every prayer, even whispered softly, can touch an invisible door your eyes have not yet seen. Every act of faithfulness, however hidden, can open a way for those who will walk after you. As it is written, death and life are in the power of the tongue. That is why I teach you that spiritual influence is not measured by how loud you are, but by the place in which you stand within me. When you truly move in me, what surrounds you also begins to move according to the order I desire. And when I begin to open your destiny, you will not always feel it as though a mighty storm has suddenly broken upon you. Often, you will only sense a very slight trembling beneath your feet, as though the old ground is no longer standing as still as before. Do not fear that shaking, for it does not come to make you fall, but to awaken the hidden parts within you that are still asleep. There are spiritual capacities, levels of discernment, widenings of heart, and layers of illuminated understanding that I have placed within you, but whose full unveiling has not yet come. And when the time arrives, you will find that your mind becomes clearer, your heart wider, and your spiritual instinct sharper. You will know certain things even before natural signs appear to confirm them. You will sense the turning of doors in the spiritual realm before there is any visible movement in outward life. Remember the sons of Issachar in the scriptures, who were praised as men who understood the times and knew what Israel ought to do. I am giving you that same sensitivity, not so that you may think yourself above others, but so that you may know the hour, know the rhythm, know the direction, know when to move forward, when to wait, when to speak, and when to remain silent. This is the gift of one who has been awakened, not a useless curiosity about mysteries, but a clarity that enables timely obedience. And then, when I lift your eyes toward what lies ahead, you will see that you no longer walk like one wandering in search of a path. You will move like an arrow drawn from the quiver, stretched by the hand of heaven, and released with a force that does not come from your own strength. You cannot launch yourself. I am the one who takes aim, appoints the target, supplies the force, and releases you at the appointed moment. This means that your life no longer belongs to aimless uncertainty. Every step you take will touch someone, sometimes through your words, sometimes simply through your presence, and sometimes through the quiet faithfulness others observe and are strengthened by enough to rise. I am making your life into a sound that clears the way for those who come after you. There are children yet unborn in generations to come who will inherit greater clarity simply because you chose obedience today. There are people sinking in their own darkness who will be awakened by your footsteps if you continue walking in me. So do not ask whether you are enough, because if you measure by yourself, you will always find lack. Ask instead where I am and what I have given you, because wherever I am present, the provision is already there. As I said to Gideon, "Go in this thy might, have not I sent thee?" Strength does not lie in your feeling of sufficiency, but in the one who sends you. Now hear clearly what I speak over your life. As though heaven itself were opening, you are being lifted up, but not so that you may stand above others. You are being set into the stature your soul was created to carry. You are being sent forth, not to place more burdens upon your shoulders, but to become an answer to souls crying silently for help. You are being set free, not so that you may become busier, but so that you may live according to my design for your life. You are being entrusted with destiny, not for display, but to bear witness that my light is real and that it can transform a person from the inside out. As it is written, the people who know their God shall be strong and carry out great exploits. My beloved, from this day on, do not live like one who is merely trying to keep from burning out. Live like a flame that knows it has been kindled by my breath. Do not only drink enough to satisfy your own thirst. Let the living water within you flow out. Do not only listen to the call from afar, become the echo of that call in the earth. For I have chosen you, awakened you, preserved you, and now I am sending you forth. You are living proof of what I can do with a soul that belongs wholly to me. Thank you for listening to this message. Know this, you are not merely an audience. You are chosen to live daily in the presence of the Word of God. Do not forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you will not miss any spiritual message. Amen. My beloved child, before you allow any other noise to enter your heart, I want you to pause in this stillness and listen very carefully to what I am speaking. There are things that do not come against you with obvious swords, nor do they rush into your life like a storm everyone can see, but they slip through the narrow openings of the mind, clothed in something that feels very natural, very familiar, very much like your own self, and then quietly take hold of the authority within. One of those things is when emotion rises beyond its rightful place and sits in the seat that belongs only to truth. I did not create you to be dragged along by the tides of your own soul from one day to the next, rejoicing and then assuming you are near to me, or feeling heavy and then assuming you have been cast far from my embrace. No, you were not born to measure my love by the temperature of your feelings, nor were you called to read your identity through the flickering changes of your mood. As it is written, he who trusts in his own heart is a fool. And I remind you of this not to condemn you, but to draw you out of the subtle deception of an inner life that has not yet been fully brought under the light. There are days when your soul grows so weary that you think you have drifted far from me. Yet in truth, it is not that I have departed. It is only that the noise within you has become so loud that it covers the holy silence where I have been waiting for you. There are nights when you lie awake restlessly, not because I have failed to give peace, but because you have unintentionally allowed waves of emotion to move back and forth within you, like uninvited guests who have taken possession of the house. And today, I come to you as a loving father to touch that very root, not to make you afraid, but to rescue you from an invisible yoke that has been slowly wearing down your spirit. Listen deeply. My beloved, emotion in itself is not the enemy. I created you with a heart that can tremble, rejoice, grieve, and be moved by what is holy. But emotion is only a messenger, not a ruler. It is only a breeze passing by the porch, not the stone foundation upon which the house is built. When you begin asking your heart every day, how do I feel today? And then use that answer as the standard by which you decide whether you are still loved, still chosen, still being led, then you have placed a created thing upon the throne that was meant only for my voice. From that moment, anxiety no longer needs to knock at the door. It simply sits down in the middle of your heart and begins to govern your breathing, your sleep, your thoughts, your prayers, and the way you see yourself. One day you feel strong and assume your faith is great. Another day you feel empty and believe you have lost everything. But I speak to you now. Truth does not change according to the fluctuations of the inner life. The sun does not disappear simply because clouds cover the sky. My covenant does not tremble simply because your heart passes through a dark day. As it is written, Jesus Christ is the same yesterday and today and forever. If I do not change, then my love for you does not change. If my word does not change, then the identity I have placed upon you does not rise and fall with every shifting emotion. Therefore, I am teaching you something deeper than merely trying to control your emotions. I am not telling you to become a cold stone, unable to feel. I am teaching you to place every feeling under the rule of the Holy Spirit. You must learn to speak to your soul as David once did. Why are you cast down, O my soul? And why are you disquieted within me? Do you see? He did not allow his soul to lead him freely into darkness. He confronted it, named its unrest, and then turned it back toward God. That is what I want you to do as well. Do not let unexamined emotions speak the final word over your life. Do not let a passing sorrow become a sentence over your entire future. Do not let a moment of loneliness convince you that you have been abandoned. Do not let a brief wave of weariness cause you to deny the work I have been doing in you through so many years. There are things that are only a mist passing by, but if you bow your head and worship them, they will become night in your mind. That is why I am not only calling you out of visible sin, I am also calling you out of the habit of believing what you feel more than what I have spoken. Remember the story of Esau, my beloved. Because of one moment of hunger, he treated his birthright as something of little value, exchanging what was lasting for what could satisfy him in the moment. This is not merely a story about bread and stew. It is a warning to every soul that allows temporary emotion to make decisions in the place of wisdom. A wave of emptiness can cause a person to trade what is sacred for what is immediately comforting. A moment of hurt can lead someone to speak words that damage what took years to build. A surge of fear can cause a person to turn away from the door I am opening simply because it does not look the way they imagined. But I want you to be different. I want you to become one who knows how to pause before reacting, who knows how to kneel before drawing conclusions, who knows how to let my words settle within the heart before making any judgment about oneself. For many times, what is dangerous is not the strength of emotion, but emotion that is never brought before me. Whatever is not placed under the light will grow in the dark. Whatever is not brought into truth will begin to create a false truth of its own. So today, I am drawing you back to the place of anchoring, not the anchor of your own strength, nor the anchor of rigid discipline, but the anchor of identity in me. Who you are is not determined by the days when you feel strong or weak. Who you are is not defined by whether prayer comes easily or with difficulty today. Who you are is not rewritten by a morning when your thoughts are tangled or a night when your heart is full of pressure. You are the one I knew beforehand, called by name beforehand, and set apart beforehand. You belong to me, even before you understood what it meant to belong. And because of that, when darkness disguises itself as light in order to deceive you, I will expose it. When chaos puts on the garment of intuition to control you, I will separate it from the true voice of the Holy Spirit. When the instability within tries to present itself as truth, I will speak my word above it. As it is written, the peace of God will guard your hearts and minds. I do not give peace merely as a pleasant feeling. I give peace as a soldier standing guard at the gate of your heart, refusing to let what is false enter in and reign. Therefore, my beloved child, do not be afraid when I touch the very roots of the chaos within you. Do not be ashamed when I show you that many times you have been carried away more by what you felt than by what you knew in me. My exposing does not aim to disgrace you. It is the gentle act of love unfastening your chains. I do not want you to keep living like a boat without an anchor, tossed about by every small wave. I want you to become one whose heart remains tender while the foundation stays firm. One who knows how to weep without despairing, how to feel deeply without losing direction, how to face emotion without being ruled by it. Let me teach you how to sit quietly at my feet until the waves within you grow still. Let me teach you how to discern between the noise of the soul and the whisper of the Holy Spirit. Let me restore order within you, so that from this day forward, emotion will no longer be king, but only a servant, no longer the guide, but only that which is guided. And then you will know what true freedom is. Not freedom from feeling, but freedom from being led by feeling. Not freedom from tears, but freedom from the deception hiding behind tears. Not freedom from days of weakness, but freedom so that even in those very days, you still stand firm upon what I have spoken. This is the hour in which I am drawing you out of that invisible vortex. This is the moment I restore to you a peace that does not depend on circumstances, a clarity that does not depend on mood, and an identity that cannot be worn away by the hidden currents within. Come near to me, and you will see what once sought to swallow you will lose its power over you, because my light has entered in and called your name in truth. My beloved child, there are things that bind the soul which do not come with visible chains, but slip in very softly, very skillfully, and in forms that closely resemble the seemingly harmless needs of the human heart. They do not always appear as violent emotion or overwhelming floods of tears. Often they hide themselves in the thirst to be understood by others, in the waiting for a word of affirmation, in the need to be recognized in order to feel valuable, in the habit of searching for a feeling that seems right before daring to move forward. And in the end, they quietly persuade you that only when your heart trembles strongly enough are you truly near to me. But I say to you that this is a dangerous confusion. I did not enthrone emotion to govern your life. I did not create you to ask your heart every day what it feels, and then use that answer as the map for your spiritual journey. Emotion may be real, deep, and strong, but it is not the final word. It is not the compass of heaven. Still less is it the rock upon which you are to build your identity. Just as the wise man built his house upon the rock so that when the rain fell, the floods came, and the winds blew, that house remained standing. So you also must learn to stand upon my word, not upon the waves that rise and fall within your heart. Otherwise, what you imagine to be spiritual sensitivity will gradually become a subtle dependence, causing you to feel loved only when your heart is warm, to imagine that you are being led only when your mind is stirred with excitement, and to assume that I am near only when your experience is pleasant. I want you to understand this deeply. My beloved child, not everything that makes your heart tremble comes from me. There are emotions like city lights reflected on the water at night, glittering, alluring, full of promise. Yet the longer you stare at them, the more they weary your eyes and scatter your soul. There are inner surges that rise up and make you think you are stepping into something deeply sacred, when in truth, you are only being drawn into a whirlpool that leaves you exhausted, lacking clarity, and unable to remain still before me. The enemy does not always come in a darkness that is easy to recognize. Often it clothes itself in light, using intense feelings to create the illusion of life and vitality, while beneath it all, there is a quiet erosion taking place. That is why I come to expose these things, not to shame you, but to draw you away from what is secretly wearing down the identity I have placed within you. As it is written, the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? That word is not meant to crush you, but to teach you that a heart not yet brought under the light will easily exalt itself as the one steering the course. And if you continue to let your heart decide when you are strong, when you are weak, when you are loved, and when you are forgotten, then before long, peace will be displaced, and your mind will become weary like someone who keeps running yet never arrives. Look at the story of Saul, the first king of Israel. He did not fall merely because he lacked ability, but because again and again he lost his way by allowing insecurity, fear of people, and the unrest within him to lead him farther than the Word of God. When a person allows emotion to rule, they will easily choose what soothes immediate fear rather than what pleases me. In the same way, if you are not watchful, you will gradually begin to build your life on the need to feel rather than on the truth that has been spoken. You will begin to require a response, a sign, an atmosphere, a stirring within, just to know whether you are still on the right path. But my beloved, truth does not change according to the temperature of feeling. I am not nearer on the days when you feel deeply moved, nor am I farther away on the days when you feel dry. My love does not rise and fall with the unstable rhythm of your heart. As it is written, "Be still, and know that I am God." Here is the dividing line between the one who walks in peace and the one who is swallowed by emotion. One knows how to stop and let me rule the atmosphere within, while the other is constantly driven by every inward wind and then calls that movement guidance. Therefore, I am teaching you to discern between a signal and a foundation. Emotion may alert you that something is moving within, but it does not have the authority to draw conclusions for you. It may show you where you are hurting, where you are thirsty, where you are uneasy, but it must not become the voice that defines who you are. You are not your sorrow. You are not your disappointment. You are not the ache of being unrecognized, nor the emptiness you passed through last night. You are what I called forth from the beginning. You are what I had in mind before anyone praised you or criticized you. You are not something rewritten by a day of emotional storm. That is why I do not want you chasing after always feeling right. I want you to learn how to live rightly, even when you do not feel anything remarkable at all. That is maturity. That is freedom. That is the place where identity is no longer pulled back and forth by the waves within. Just as Peter walked on the water for as long as his eyes remained fixed on the Lord, so you too will stand firm, only when your eyes are set on me and not on the shifting waves of emotion that change from hour to hour. My beloved child, there are days when you feel the need to be understood, to be held, to be praised, to receive some sign that tells you you still have worth. I do not despise those needs. I know you were created with a heart that longs deeply, but if you bring those needs to the wrong place, they will become a hunger that is never satisfied. People may offer you a few gentle words, but they cannot build your identity. A moment of recognition may bring temporary comfort, but it cannot heal the root of the fear of being forgotten. Only I can do that. Only when you allow me to touch the deepest place of that need will you stop using emotion as the measure of love. I want you to live from the truth that you were loved before you ever felt it, called before you ever proved anything, and held in my hand, even on the days when your heart feels like a dry desert. When you stand upon that truth, the small demands of emotion will no longer have the authority to direct your life. They will fall back into their proper place, waves to be observed, not a throne to be obeyed. So today, with gentleness, yet with firmness, I'm calling you back. Stop building your house upon the sand of feeling. Lay the first stone of peace upon what I have spoken. Learn to sit still before me until the noise within your heart grows quiet. Let my word become stronger than the need to feel something immediately. Let the Holy Spirit teach you how to discern without being dragged away, how to be moved without being ruled, how to feel without losing your watchfulness. I am not taking away your heart, I am purifying it. I am not extinguishing your emotions, I am bringing them under the order of the kingdom of heaven. And then you will be astonished to see yourself beginning to breathe more deeply, sleep more peacefully, pray more simply, and live more steadily, not because your life no longer has waves, but because you no longer allow the waves to rule you. From this day forward, you will know what true peace is, not the absence of feeling, but the ability to feel and still stand firm, not the absence of tears, but the grace to weep without losing direction, not the absence of weekdays, but the strength to remember even on those very days that I am the rock, and every wave is only passing through. Come near to me, and I will heal that dependence at its root, so that from the place that once held chaos, a soul marked by order, clarity, and freedom will be born in my light. My beloved child, there is something I want you to recognize. In gentleness, yet also in very direct truth, what grieves my heart is not that you are passing through waves of inner unrest, but that you have so often looked at yourself with a gaze that is far too harsh, and then concluded that such instability is your very nature. There were times when you thought yourself weaker than others, thought your faith was fragile, thought you were not mature enough to step into the things I have promised. But I tell you this, not to soothe you for a moment, but to lay a new foundation for your soul. Your true being is not small the way you have imagined. It is precisely because there is something precious within you, a true depth, a seed greater than what you can presently see. That darkness tries so hard not to destroy you through obvious attacks, but to wear you down from within. When it cannot pull you off the path through visible adversity, it will try to exhaust you through wave after wave of unending emotion. When it cannot strike you down through blatant falling, it will try to make you doubt yourself. When it cannot break your calling through outward pressure, it will seek to leave your heart weary through nameless inner fluctuations. But today I stand in your midst like a wall of fire, and I will not let you keep blaming your true self for what has actually come to manipulate you. As it is written, the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through God to the pulling down of strongholds. Therefore, you do not need to condemn yourself. You need to stay watchful, so that you may discern what is truly you, and what is only a wind trying to pass through the garden of your soul. Let me set before your eyes a very clear picture. Your soul is like a garden that I have long cultivated, a piece of ground with order, with purpose, with seasons, and with a promise all its own. Emotions are only like the weather passing over that garden. There are days of beautiful sunlight, days of gray clouds, moments of gentle breeze, and times when storms roll in. But, my beloved, the weather is not the identity of the garden. Rain cannot define the soil. Wind cannot rename the land. One gloomy day cannot erase the seed lying deep beneath the earth. If you keep allowing the weather to decide who you are today, whether you are still loved today, whether you are still walking in the right direction today, then you will live in a cycle that never reaches the harvest. I did not create you to chase every change in the inner sky. I created you as solid ground, as a deep foundation, as a place where seed can take root and grow through many seasons. As it is written, he shall be like a tree planted by the waters, which spreads out its roots by the river, and will not fear when heat comes. Do you see? Strength does not lie in the absence of scorching heat or storm, but in roots that have gone deeper than the weather. That is what I am doing in you. I am not merely calming the wind, I am strengthening the ground. Therefore, do not be quick to call your inward unrest a sign that you lack spiritual depth. Many times, it is the very soul called to deeper things that feels more keenly the movements within the mind and heart. But sensitivity does not mean you must be led by every feeling. Tenderness does not mean fragility. A heart that is deeply moved by many things can still be firmer than stone when it is rightly anchored in me. I do not want you to become cold so that you will not hurt. Nor do I want you to become hardened so that you will not be shaken. I want you to become discerning. I want you to know that there are days when your heart is like a still lake, and there are also days when the rain comes. Yet the lake does not cease to be a lake because a storm rises over it. In the same way, you do not cease to be my child, because today you feel weak. You do not lose your identity because there is heaviness in your chest. You are not erased from my plan because your mind is troubled for a day. As it is written of Paul, we are hard pressed on every side, yet not crushed, perplexed, but not in despair. That is exactly what I want to build within you, not a life that never trembles, but an inner strength that is not ruled by trembling. Remember the story of the prophet Jonah. My beloved child, in only a short span of time, he could move from obedience to discouragement, from witnessing my power in the city of Nineveh to sitting in anger beneath the shade of a plant, allowing a very small change in circumstance to pull his heart downward. That story is not only about anger, it reveals to you how deeply a soul can be governed by the weather of emotion when it does not allow me to correct its perspective. Yet, even there, I did not cast Jonah away, I taught him. In the same way, I do not come to rebuke you for the rises and falls within your heart. I come to teach you that not everything you feel has the right to command your life. There are days when emotion says, "You are too weak. Step back." There are days when it says, "No one understands you. No one needs you." There are moments when it whispers, "You are not enough. You will break." But I speak a greater word. You do not live by the voice of the weather. You live by the voice of the one who planted the garden. You are not called to react to every passing wind. You are called to send your roots deeper whenever the wind begins to blow. That is why what I am doing right now is not merely comforting you, but drawing you out of the cycle of rising and falling like the tides, a cycle in which you have lived for far too long. I do not want you to be strong today because your heart feels light, only to collapse tomorrow beneath some invisible heaviness. I do not want your life to become like a dry leaf, carried away by the atmosphere of your inner world. I am setting you again upon the eternal foundation, where your identity is not written by circumstance, not confirmed by other people, not proven by emotion, but sealed in me. I have called you by your name. You are mine. When that word sinks deeply into you, the storm is no longer king. Rain may come, but the ground remains the ground. The wind may grow strong, but the roots do not move from their place. Darkness may try to prolong the night, but it cannot change the position of the sun. I want you to be firm like a rock, not so that you lose your tenderness, but so that every tenderness within you may be kept safe. I want you to have a heart that knows how to love, how to weep, how to be moved, yet no longer be drowned by those things. Therefore, my beloved child, from this moment on, stop looking at yourself as though you are a flaw that must be fixed, a spiritual malfunction, a being always lacking. Look at yourself instead as a garden that is being guarded. Let me be the one who discerns which rain is necessary, which wind must be rebuked, which season calls for rest, and which season calls for sowing. Let me teach you to live from the foundation and not from the weather. For if you step into the new season with a heart still submitting to every wave of emotion, you will grow weary as soon as the strong winds arise. But if you enter that season as soil that has been made firm in me, as ground planted deeply in my word, then whatever comes will only reveal the endurance I have already sown within you. And then you will understand, the thing trying to wear you out is not proof that you are weak, but a sign that there is something precious in you that must be guarded. I am doing that work even now. Rest in me. Let me uproot from you the habit of identifying yourself with the weather. Let me restore to you the holy steadfastness of the earth, so that from the place that once trembled, a soul that is clear, stable, mature, and full of life will rise up. For you were not created to dissolve like the waves. You were created to bear fruit like a field that belongs to my own hand. My beloved child, I know there have been many times when you tightened your grip on yourself, trying to force your heart into discipline, trying to silence the inner fluctuations, trying to keep your soul steady by your own strength, as though peace were something to be achieved through strain. But today I want you to lay that burden down at my feet and understand this deeply. Peace is not something you manufacture by willpower, nor is it a reward reserved for those strong enough to control their inner world. Peace is a grace I give. Peace is a power that flows from my presence. Peace does not wait for circumstances to fall silent before it appears. It can remain in its place even in the midst of strong winds. As it is written, "Peace I leave with you, my peace I give to you, not as the world gives do I give to you." Therefore, when I touch the deep places where you have become accustomed to living by reaction, by feeling, by the smallest inner shifts of your heart, I am not only removing the invisible chains that have bound you, I am training your soul to stand upon the rock. I am teaching you how to trust, even when your mind has not yet begun to feel at ease. I am teaching you how to rest, even while many noises still remain around you. I am teaching you how to take each step not because everything has already become clear, but because you know that the one holding your hand is faithful. That is true maturity, not when you no longer feel anything, but when you no longer allow what you feel to reign as king over your life. And now I want to speak to you about something many souls avoid, because they are afraid to look at the root of it. The thing that has been wearing away, the life within you, does not always begin with a great storm or some obvious event. Many times, it begins very small, so small that you call it normal. It begins in those moments when you wait for a reply and none comes, and then allow that silence to become a verdict in your heart. It begins with a word of affirmation you hoped to hear, but no one spoke. And from there, you quietly begin reevaluating your own worth. It begins with the slightest change in another person's expression, and then you carry it into your mind and turn it over again and again all day long, as though your soul must somehow decipher what just happened. It begins in the nights when you lie awake, replaying every word you said, every message you sent, every interaction you had, asking yourself where you might have gone wrong. It begins when you allow the reactions of others to become the mirror by which you measure your identity. And from such small things, a toxic current quietly forms, pulling your heart into a cycle of analysis, prediction, anxiety, and then exhaustion. I do not condemn you for this. I see every line of worry, every moment your heart tightened because of a change too subtle to fully name. Every time you tried to appear normal, while inside there was an undertow moving through you. But I also see clearly how this has been draining your spiritual strength. Just as Samson's hair was cut while he slept, and he did not realize that his strength had departed from him. So there have been times when your inward strength was diminished by things that seemed too small to deserve notice. That is why I come not only to comfort you, but to cleanse the poison from your soul, so that this spiral will no longer keep turning and swallowing up your clarity. Picture your inner life as a holy room in which I desire to dwell with light, order, and the breath of peace. But if every sound from outside is allowed to rush in and reset the atmosphere of that room, then you will never truly rest. A delayed message becomes thunder. An unfamiliar glance becomes a storm. A brief silence becomes a darkness settling over your soul. I did not create you to live this way. I did not call you to become a slave to the subtle fluctuations of human relationships. I created you to stand in identity, to love without losing yourself, to be sensitive and yet steadfast, to open your heart without allowing every reaction of others to bend you away from the truth. I have spoken. As it is written, you will keep him in perfect peace, whose mind is stayed on you, because he trusts in you. Do you see? I have not promised that the world will always be easy to understand, that people will always be easy to read, or that every signal around you will always feel gentle. But I have promised something deeper than all of that, an inner life guarded by my presence. And when your inner life abides in that place, small things will no longer have the power to magnify themselves into great waves. Remember Mary, the sister of Martha, when she sat at the Lord's feet. Around her there was still noise, still work to be done, still the rhythm of life that can easily pull a person's heart into constant motion. Yet she chose the better portion, to remain still before the one who is the source of life. Martha, by contrast, became troubled by many things, allowing circumstance and the feeling of busyness to pull her mind away from what mattered most. That story is not only about serving and listening, it is also a lesson for you today. A soul addicted to reacting will always be carried away by the smallest things. A soul that stays near me will know how to choose what is essential. I am not telling you to stop feeling, stop caring, or become cold toward the signals around you. I am simply teaching you not to hand the throne of your heart to things too small to deserve sitting there. Do not let the reactions of people rewrite the truth I have spoken over you. Do not let a day with little recognition make you forget that you were known before the foundation of the world. Do not let another person's silence make you forget the voice that is still speaking over you. When you remain near me long enough, you will stop rushing to interpret everything through fear. You will learn how to leave unresolved things in my hands without forcing yourself to find an immediate answer. Therefore, my beloved child, this is the hour in which I break that old cycle. I am drawing you out of that way of living in which everything is measured by reaction, by feeling, by the flickering signals around you. I am restoring to you an inner life that knows how to anchor itself in truth, a heart that knows how to rest even when there is no explanation yet, a mind that no longer has to run like an overloaded machine just because one small detail has not been explained. Let me cleanse that deep place within you. Let me teach you how to breathe by faith. Let me lay my hand upon your memories, upon old patterns, upon the habit of scrutinizing and condemning yourself, and speak my peace into them. For once, I not only comfort you but heal you at the root. You will begin to live differently. You will no longer be shaken in your sense of worth by delayed messages. You will no longer let an unfamiliar glance throw your whole day off course. You will no longer lie awake at night tearing your own soul apart with endless speculation. Instead, you will stand firm, tender without becoming fragile, perceptive without being swallowed up, peaceful without needing everything around you to become instantly calm. Then you will understand that what I am doing is not merely making you feel better, but setting you truly free. For the child I love was not created to live inside a vortex that never stops. You were created to abide in me, walk with me, and carry my peace within you as a holy kind of kingship. My beloved child, let me say this to you with gentleness and with clarity. The work I am doing in you is not the extinguishing of your heart, nor is it making your soul cold and hard like stone in winter. I did not create you to no longer feel, no longer be moved, no longer tremble within. On the contrary, I formed you with an inner life that knows joy, sorrow, feeling, and tenderness, that can be stirred by beauty and can ache before what is wounded. But there is a holy order you must understand deeply. Emotions were created to serve discernment, not to sit upon the throne and govern your life. When emotion remains in its rightful place, It is like a small bell, reminding you to pause and listen. But when it moves beyond its proper limits, it becomes a shout within your being, commanding your mind to be anxious, commanding your heart to doubt, commanding your soul to live in continual exhaustion. That is why what I am doing is not the elimination of emotion, but the returning of it to its rightful place. Detoxifying the soul does not mean making you unfeeling. It means restoring order in the kingdom within you. As it is written, God is not the author of confusion, but of peace. When my peace reigns, everything within you begins to return to its proper place. The mind no longer has to run like an exhausted machine. The heart is no longer dragged away by every passing wave. And your soul begins to remember the breathing rhythm of one who lives under the guidance of heaven. Therefore, my beloved child, do not be afraid when I touch the disorder within you. Picture your inner life as a room that has gone a long time without being cleaned. You walk into it and only know that you are tired, yet you do not understand why. Then, when the light is turned on, you begin to see that every corner is filled with things that were never put in order, old sorrows folded unevenly, anxieties piled up like clothes never put away, memories you have kept, not because they still belong to you, but because you fear the emptiness you might feel if you let them go. I do not come to rebuke you for that room, nor to shame you for the disordered drawers within your soul. I come to put it in order with you. I open each drawer not to expose you to condemnation, but to show you what truly needs to be kept and what remains there only because fear has grown familiar. There are feelings you call present, but in truth, they are only old wounds wearing the disguise of today. There are reactions you think are part of your nature, but in truth, they are only echoes left behind from a season that has already passed. There are things you keep in your heart simply because you are afraid that if you release them, you will feel empty. But I say to you that emptiness is not always loss. Many times it is the space where I am preparing to pour in new life. As it is written, prepare the way of the Lord. Make level the rough places. Do you see? There are places within you that need to be made smooth, not to make you smaller, but so that the flow of my peace may pass through without obstruction. Therefore, detoxifying your soul in me is a deeply holy work. I will teach you to discern between what you are truly feeling and what is only a reflex formed from old pains. I will help you recognize what sorrow needs to be held in the light, what fear must be rebuked by truth, what sensitivity is born of love, and what inner agitation comes from insecurity that has not yet been healed. Not everything that appears in your heart has the right to speak the final word. Not every sound within your mind comes from me, and not everything that makes you tremble is the guidance of heaven. Just as Elijah stood on the mountain and recognized that God was not in the strong wind, not in the earthquake, and not in the fire, but in the still small voice. So I am teaching you to discern between the noise of the inner life and the speaking of the Holy Spirit. Some emotions know only how to shout. Some wounds know only how to drag you back into the past. But my voice does not come to throw you into chaos. My voice comes to set you right. When emotion is in the wrong place, it pushes you like an unstable king. When it returns to its rightful place, it becomes only an honest messenger, bringing what it sees before me, so that I may teach you to understand what is truly taking place. Remember the story of Hannah, my beloved child. She entered the temple with a heavy soul, her lips moving without sound, so much so that the priest thought she was drunk. But what brought change to her was not that her pain vanished in that very moment, but that she brought the full depth of her heart before God instead of allowing it to continue reigning within her. After she poured out her soul, Scripture says that her countenance was no longer the same. Do you see? The circumstance had not immediately changed, yet the order within her had already begun to change. That is exactly what I am doing in you. I am not telling you to deny your emotions, nor am I telling you to pretend you are fine when you are not. I am inviting you to bring them to the right place. When pain sits on the throne, it will reign. When pain is laid at my feet, it begins to be healed. When anxiety holds authority, it makes you run in circles within your own mind. When anxiety is brought into the light, it gradually loses its ruling voice. That is why I do not want you to continue living like one who is dragged everywhere by every inward state. I want you to live like one who knows how to bring everything back before the Father, so that each thing may be rightly named, rightly placed, and rightly illuminated. My beloved child, in this process you may feel as though I am pulling open drawers you once kept tightly locked. You may feel as though everything inside you is being turned over. But do not panic. When a physician touches the place that hurts, it is not to cause deeper pain, but to bring healing to the root. When a gardener turns the soil, it is not to destroy the seed, but to make room for the roots to go deeper. In the same way, when I touch the layers of emotion piled up within you, I am not doing it to take away your ability to feel. I am doing it to give back to you the ability to breathe. For so long there have been places within your heart so cramped that even you have forgotten what lightness feels like. But I will open the windows of your soul. I will draw back the curtains of fear. I will clear away the clutter that has filled the inner pathways so that the fresh wind of the Holy Spirit may enter. And you will begin to breathe again, not the hurried breath of one who is always waiting for something to wound them, but the deep breath of one who knows they are in the Father's house. So from this moment on, let me teach you to live in a new order. Do not let emotion ascend the throne and force the whole kingdom within you to bow before it. Do not let a passing sadness decide that today is a day of failure. Do not let a small fear put on the garment of truth. Do not let memories that have never been put in order continue to occupy the place of peace. Allow me to be king in the deepest place within you. Allow emotion to become a servant rather than a tyrant. Allow your heart to be cleansed, to breathe, to rest. Then you will see, what once shouted will only know how to whisper. What once drove you will only know how to remind you to pause and listen. What once exhausted you will become a doorway, leading you into deeper understanding of yourself and of me. That is true detoxification, not the loss of your heart, but the heart brought under the authority of peace. Not the removal of feeling, but feeling made clean so that it no longer clouds my voice. And in that holy reordering, you will begin to live like one who is truly free, no longer swallowed by what you feel, but using all that you feel to go deeper into the light, the healing, and the everlasting peace that comes from me. Listen to me, for I am placing within your heart a peace that is not soft like the morning mist, but strong like the command I once spoke over the Sea of Galilee, peace. Be still, and at once the wind bowed in obedience. That kingly peace is not the warmth of emotion, but the weight of identity. It keeps your feet unmoved in the midst of the storm, and enables you to stand before the mirror and know that you no longer carry the old label of yesterday. Because of this, you will dare to refuse the things that once drew you into the whirlpool of anxiety, and you will stand firm like a rock set in the current, utterly unshaken. Then you will no longer sway with every wave of emotion that passes over you. You will hold your ground, hold your breath, and hold the identity I have given you. I restore identity not only by whispering to you who you are, but also by cutting from your shoulders the layers you once thought belonged to you, though in truth they were only excess baggage, memories that once whispered, "You are weak." I bring into the light so you can see they were only signs of weariness, reactions that made you conclude, "I am immature." I hold long enough for the wound beneath them to reveal itself as something in need of healing. Moments when you thought you had collapsed, I uncover and show you that you were only being pulled by emotion, not overcome by truth. When the false weight falls away, you begin to experience the Word. He gives power to the faint, and to him who has no might, he increases strength. Isaiah 40:29. Then you suddenly realize that your spiritual strength is far greater than what your emotions had been stirring and confusing in your mind. So that you may understand this clearly, I place before you a story that few pay attention to: Jonathan and his armor-bearer. In the face of the mighty camp of the Philistines, only 2 men quietly crossed the wilderness. They did not wait for favorable signals, nor did they wait until their hearts felt right, but leaned upon a simple certainty. It may be that the Lord will work for us. 1 Samuel 14:6. They moved forward not by the temperature of emotion, but by the assurance that the Mighty One was leading them. As they climbed the rocky slope, I threw the enemy into confusion, and they stood firm on the height of victory. I tell you this so that you may know, kingly peace does not make you passive. It moves you forward without needing to rely on the cheers of your own heart, because you trust me more than you trust its unstable rhythm. Picture your soul as a room once filled with clutter. Old papers are weary reasonings. Wrinkled clothes are the fear of being forgotten. Dusty closed boxes are the longing to be praised by others. I enter not to scold you for the disorder, but to clean it with you. I lift the cloths covering painful memories, open the drawers where what-ifs have been piled up, and show you which things are kept for a purpose and which are kept only because you fear emptiness. At times, the process of clearing out may make you feel as though I, myself, am overturning your inner world. Yet the moment the doorway opens, the fresh wind of the Holy Spirit rushes in, and you breathe a long breath of relief, as though you never knew how deprived of air you had been. In that moment, emotion is no longer a master, shouting commands, but simply becomes a faithful messenger, reminding you to pause or to move on, and then falling silent so that I may lead you, as I have promised. The peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your heart and mind. Philippians 4:7. And you begin to live differently, standing still not because the waves have ceased, but because your roots hold fast in the everlasting rock, smiling not because the sky is always clear, but because you know that wind and rain only pass through, acting not because you are applauded, but because my breath compels you. Then peace becomes power. Identity becomes a fortress. And you, my beloved child, walk through the earth with a heart at rest, like an enclosed garden, preserving the fragrance of life for the seasons yet to come, carrying my light to guide those who stagger in search of the way home. My child, let me place my hand upon the hidden wound in your soul, like a patient physician drawing poison from an old bite. When the needle touches the skin, it will sting, but that sting is the sign that the poison is leaving the bloodstream, not that the illness is becoming worse. In the same way, I will bring you face to face with unhealthy emotions you once avoided. I will stir up the weary whispers in your mind so that I may silence their source once and for all. The quiet places into which I lead you are not abandonment. They are the spaces I open for the deepest healing. For in quietness and in trust shall be your strength. Isaiah 30:15. Then one morning you will suddenly realize what once made you panic now only gives you pause for reflection. What once stole your sleep no longer holds power, and the old wound passes by like a light breeze upon the skin. In that hour your identity will stand firm. Kingly peace will overflow. Your soul will cease from wavering, and you will understand more deeply than ever before that you belong to me. I want you to engrave this spiritual truth upon your heart. You were not born to be led by emotion. You were created to take hold of the reins of emotion and lead it back into its rightful course. Emotion is only changing weather, but your spirit is the vast sky above it, steady and not shaped by passing winds. I did not call you to live by what you feel. I called you to walk by what I have spoken. For heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away. Matthew 24:35. When you grasp that truth, you will no longer stop simply because of a sorrowful day, nor rush ahead merely because of a moment of excitement. You will move according to revelation, not according to the unstable pulse of emotion. And that is true freedom, so that you may see the difference between one who is ruled by emotion and one who leads emotion. Let me tell you again of Jonathan and his armor-bearer. In the midst of the crowded Philistine camp, those two men quietly crossed the rocky pass. They had no favorable sign, nor did they wait for their hearts to feel right. They held only to one simple certainty. It may be that the Lord will work for us. 1 Samuel 14:6. Because they trusted, they climbed the slippery crags, and I threw the enemy into confusion while they stood firm upon the height of victory. Learn from that. My child, powerful peace does not make you withdraw. It makes you dare to move forward, even when your heart has not yet risen in excitement. Because you know that the one holding your hand is more faithful than your own shifting feelings. Now picture your soul as a room crowded with old things. The wrinkled papers of memory are weary reasonings. The garments of doubt hang thick along the path, and the dusty sealed boxes are the longing to be praised by others. I enter not to scold you, but to clean it with you. I lift the covering of sorrow from old memories, peel off the label of weak nature from reactions that were really only weariness, and draw back the curtain of fear so that light may enter the corners of groundless anxiety. At times you will think, I am overturning your entire inner world. Yet when the window is opened and the wind of the Holy Spirit rushes in, you will realize that for so long you had been deprived of the oxygen of peace. The peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds. Philippians 4:7. When that peace is enthroned, emotion returns to its rightful role as a messenger. It knocks only to signal something, then falls silent so that I may lead. In this process, I also cut away from you the garments that never truly belonged to you. The memories that made you think you were weak, I reveal as only temporary signs of exhaustion. The reactions you mistook for immaturity, I hold long enough for the wound beneath them to be exposed and healed. The moments you thought were failures, I shine my light upon to show that you were only being pulled by emotional waves, not overcome by reality itself. When the false burden falls away, my word thunders within you. I have called you by your name. You are mine. Isaiah 43:1. Then you begin to realize that your spiritual strength is far greater than what emotion once embroidered and distorted in your mind. At last, when I speak kingly peace into your heart, that peace does not come like a warm blanket, but like the authority that stilled the Sea of Galilee. It makes you steadfast in the face of contrary winds. It enables you to look into the mirror and no longer define yourself by yesterday's darkness. It gives you the courage to say no to every invitation back into the whirlpool of anxiety. You hold your position, hold your breath, and hold your identity like a rock in the midst of the ocean waves, unmoved and unshaken. And I delight to see you walk forward, no longer straining to feel right, but confidently living right because you have understood this. Emotion is the messenger, but identity is the king. Emotion is changing weather, but the truth I have spoken is the unchanging sky. Then you will walk in peace, and I will be exalted in the strong and steadfast peace flowing through your life. My beloved child, before you take another step, I want you to taste again the flavor of kingly peace, the peace that comes like the command, "Be still," which I once spoke over the Sea of Galilee, and the wind immediately bowed. When that authority is established within your heart, you no longer steer your life by the waves of feeling, but stand firm by the identity engraved in me. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will never pass away, echoes like strength beneath every breath. From that place of standing, you begin to practice a new skill, stopping. A driver who does not know how to brake will grow weary along the road. A soul that does not know how to pause before strong emotion will soon be exhausted. Whenever a wave rises, stop, as Isaiah 30:15 teaches, that in quietness and trust shall be your strength. And ask directly, is this feeling a signal? Or is it a chain? Is it drawing you nearer to me? Or pushing you farther away? That question itself becomes the steering wheel, wherever you place your hands. The whole carriage of your inner life will turn in that direction. Next, you must be filled with truth before the day begins. Confused emotion always looks for the empty cracks of the mind in which to plant itself. But a mind soaked in the Word is like soil already covered, leaving no room for foreign seeds to take root. Therefore, just as a warrior does not leave the tent without first putting on his armor, so you also must not step out of the secret place until you have clothed yourself in my promises. When Psalm 105 calls the Word a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path, that lamp will shine over your whole day, causing emotion merely to pass by rather than remain, to brush against you and move on, no longer holding the authority to bend the course of your soul. Beyond that, you must learn to guard the atmosphere around you. Emotion spreads like fragrance. Stay near anxiety, and you will begin to taste its unrest. Stay near peace, and you will exhale quietness. Choose to let your ears receive what nourishes faith. Let your mouth speak with those who strengthen the soul. Let your feet walk into places where my presence flows freely. As Proverbs 13:20 says, he who walks with wise men will be wise. And choosing your environment is like building an invisible fence that protects the lamp of your soul from the winds of the night. When I lift you higher, do not lower yourself just to fit the emotions of others. Instead, draw them upward by the height you are keeping, like a lamp set upon a stand, giving light to the whole house, so that you may understand more clearly. Let me tell you a story that is often overlooked. When King David burned with anger and set out with the sword to take vengeance on Nabal, it was Abigail's wisdom and calmness that stopped bloodshed. She did not let a moment of blazing emotion steer her, but chose instead to pause, listen, discern, and then speak gentle words that extinguished wrath. As a result, the whole household was spared. David did not fall into the sin of shedding innocent blood, and Abigail stepped into a new destiny. I remind you of this so that you will remember, the one who masters the waves within will open the path to destiny instead of closing it. At last, you will experience this process of drawing out poison like a physician, pressing infection from an old wound. At first it stings, but the very moment the needle touches the pain is the moment the poison begins to leave the body. I allow you to face the noise within, not so that it may grow louder, but so that it may be silenced at its root. The silent nights will prove to you that silence is not abandonment. It is the hidden operating room where I cut the final cord tying you to inner instability. One morning, you will suddenly realize that what once stole your sleep now only has strength enough to knock lightly at the door of your thoughts and then pass on. And the old wound brushes by like a gentle breeze against the skin. Then, kingly peace will fully dwell within you. Identity will stand upright. The soul will no longer sway. And you will know that you belong to me more deeply than in any season before. That is true freedom, the freedom of one who walks by revelation rather than by the uncertain pulse of emotion. The freedom of one who leads emotion instead of being led by it. The freedom of a child who gives the throne of the heart to the Eternal One and leaves emotion in its proper place, a quiet messenger serving the kingdom of peace within. Listen closely. My child, and let my breath sink into your heart. For I am now changing the position of everything that has long moved freely in and out of your inner life without passing through any gate of discernment. A strong identity is not a heart emptied of emotion. A strong identity is a heart that has a king, while feelings are only messengers. From this moment on, every stirring must knock at the door of discernment. Has it come to warn, or has it come to bind? If it awakens faith, welcome it. If it pulls you back into old fear, command it to be silent. For we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ. 2 Corinthians 10:5. You may still feel the sun's warmth, still be touched by the rain, still hear the sound of the wind, but the wind no longer draws the course of your soul. Heaven alone is the compass you follow. I formed you as a fortress, not as a fragile hut, as a pillar set upon rock, not as a reed by the marsh. Therefore, stop calling yourself a leaf that must change color with every season. I declare that you are a wall that knows how to guard its gates, a city lit upon a hill. See, I have made you this day a fortified city, an iron pillar, and bronze walls. Jeremiah 1:18. Every whisper must be examined before it enters, and every old memory must present its past before it is allowed to remain. This is the mark of maturity. You do not listen to the wind. You listen to heaven. You do not turn your head in search of applause. You bow your ear in search of my voice, so that you may understand more deeply the power of holding your position. Remember the story that is seldom mentioned, when one of Elisha's disciples accidentally dropped the axe head into the Jordan River. The prophet did not panic, nor did he rebuke him. He threw a stick into the water, and the iron floated to the surface. 2 Kings 6:5-7. What was heavy came under mastery, rather than remaining sunk beneath the current. In the same way, I cast the rod of my authority upon the waters of your emotions, causing what once felt as heavy as iron to rise, so that you may see it clearly and take hold of it again. From then on, you will use your tools instead of losing them in the whirlpool of inner instability. Now I give you the secret of preserving kingly peace. First comes the art of pausing. Whenever a wave rises, breathe slowly and ask, is this wave bringing a message, or is it giving orders? The moment you stop, you regain the steering wheel. The moment you examine it, you gain the upper hand. Next, fill your mind with light before the day opens its eyes. Emptiness feeds chaos. But your word is a lamp to my feet. Psalm 119:105. And that lamp will leave darkness with nowhere to hide. Finally, choose your atmosphere wisely. Stay near anxiety, and you will become anxious. Stay near those who love truth, and you will grow bright. Just as a warrior shields the fire when the wind is strong, so you must guard the atmosphere of your inner life, so that your calling will not burn out. No one has the right to drag you down from the spiritual height I have appointed for you. You do not lower your stature to fit the frame of another person's fear, but lift them upward by the height you yourself maintain. As this cleansing continues, there will be moments when you think the wound is growing worse, because the sting of the needle reaches the skin. Do not be alarmed. It is precisely in that sharp pain that the poison is leaving the body. I will lift up the inner echoes you have tried to avoid, so that I may break the hidden roots beneath them. I will lead you into silence, so that you may discover that silence is an operating room, not a hallway of abandonment. Then, one dawn, what once stole your sleep will have only enough strength to knock lightly at the door of your thoughts, and old wounds will brush against you no more than a breeze passing through your garment. In that hour, the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, Philippians 4:7, will stand guard over your thoughts. Your soul will no longer sway, and your identity will stand upright. I also speak this final word of rebuilding. I place steadiness in your eyes, so that those who look upon you may find a point of support. I place strength in your voice so that your words may open a way for others to leave the region of chaos. And I place the breath of peace into every space through which you walk, so that all who come near you may sense the fragrance of heaven. Remember, the wind blows where it wishes, and you hear the sound of it, but cannot tell where it comes from and where it goes. John 3:8. The winds of emotion may still blow, but the sky of your identity does not change its form. You stand upon the rock I have established for you. You lead the climate of your inner world. You take hold again of the axe head of your soul that has risen from the waters, and you help many others stand firm beside you. This is the work I am completing in you, from chaos into order, from instability into the kingship of peace, so that the whole world may look and know that I, the Lord of truth, have done it. My child, take one deep breath and listen in stillness. I am calling you to lift your feet from the old threshold of emotional whirlwinds and step into the open ground where truth becomes a blazing torch before you. Do not rush, but rise with the posture of one who is awake. The one intoxicated by emotion is always hasty, but the one who is enlightened is steadfast. Scripture asks, if you have run with the footmen and they have wearied you, then how can you contend with horses? Jeremiah 12. And I ask your heart the same, so that you may know that only the one anchored in my word has the strength to move with strong winds. The first step of coming out is to stop. Stop not in order to hide, but in order to regain the steering wheel of your soul. Whenever a wave of emotion roars, you must stop like a chariot pulling hard on its reins before the edge of a cliff and question it directly. Are you a signal? Or are you a chain? Are you drawing me nearer to the Father, or pushing me farther from Him? That single question is enough to move you from being driven to becoming the one who leads. Once the steering wheel has returned to its rightful place, pour my word into your mind, as a soldier puts on heavy armor before battle. The Holy Spirit reminds you that your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path. Psalm 119, 105. Under that light, disordered emotions cannot find a dark corner in which to camp. Each dawn, even before you hear the voices of birds or of people, open the storehouse of truth and fill your vessel with faith, lest any empty place remain as a crack through which confusion can enter. Then you will begin to experience what Paul wrote, we take captive every thought to make it obedient to Christ, 2 Corinthians 10, 5. Once your thoughts submit, your emotions will bow as well. But I do not want you only to defend yourself. I want you to choose the atmosphere that nourishes peace. Remember that fragrance spreads faster than footsteps. Stand in a garden, and you will carry its sweetness. Stand among ashes, and you will carry its smoke. Therefore, stay close to those who guard the light. Listen to what builds faith, and place yourself in spaces filled with my presence. This is how you shield the lamp from violent winds. Do not lower your spiritual height merely to fit within another person's diminished emotional frame, but use the peace you carry to lift them upward. He who walks with wise men will be wise. Proverbs 13:20 is not an empty saying. It is the law of how atmosphere spreads. Now, let me tell you something few speak of, the story of Benaiah, David's warrior, who chased a lion down into a pit on a snowy day and killed it. 2 Samuel 23:20. That lion represents fear roaring in a season of cold. The pit represents circumstances difficult to navigate, and the snow represents the numbing feeling that makes a person shrink back. Yet Benaiah did not retreat. He went down into the pit, struck down the lion, and came back up, his body covered in snow but his heart burning with fire. I tell you this so that you may understand. The one who masters emotion does not wait for the sun to come out before fighting. Such a one enters the pit, faces the beast in what seems the most unfavorable moment. Because the fire within is warmer than the cold outside. That is the fire I am breathing into you. After the battlefield of your inner life has been cleansed, I give you kingly peace, not as a soft blanket of comfort, but as the command, "Be still," that once caused the Sea of Galilee to cease from its raging, Mark 4:39. That authority fastens your feet in place in the midst of the storm, so that the mirror now reflects only the new person you have become, no longer bearing the faded labels of former days. Because of this, you dare to silence the voices that once ruled you, to walk straight through places that once made you tremble, and to open your heart wide where before it always remained closed. And wondrously, you do not become a silent stone, you become a stream directed by my hand, gentle and flowing, yet never dependent on the landscape through which you pass. Then I rebuild your identity. I remove from your shoulders the cloak woven from heavy memories, and tear away the veil of falsehood that told you, "I am weak. I am lacking. I have been forgotten." In its place, I clothe you with the garments of a stronghold. You are a fortress, not a tent, a pillar, not a reed, one who carries truth, not one who echoes the shifting rhythm of emotion. Into your mouth I pour strength. Into your eyes I set steadfastness. Into your steps I release discernment. And into your breath I breathe peace, so that anyone who comes near you will sense the fragrance of heaven. Now is the hour to act, yet to act in the stillness of inward certainty. You stand without being thrown off balance by fear. You open without shrinking back before strong emotion. You move according to my rhythm, not according to the pressure of anxiety. When fear tells you to run, if I say, "Stand," then you stand. When feeling urges you to close yourself off, if I say, "Open," then you open. This is the new pattern of maturity, listening to heaven, not to the wind. And when one day you suddenly realize that the things which once stole your sleep now barely skim the surface of your thoughts, and that old wounds have become only faint lines, reminding you of the grace that healed you, then you will know that you have entered the season of true freedom, just as it is written, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." John 8:32. I cover you with my glory. Steady your feet upon the rock, and raise a wall of heavenly protection around the atmosphere of your life. From this moment on, you will live no longer dragged about, but led, no longer drifting, but flowing in freedom. And every wave of emotion will remain only a quiet messenger serving the kingdom of peace now enthroned within your heart. Lift up your head, you whom I have chosen, the season of fortified strength, the season of the lamp that does not go out. The season of true freedom is dawning upon you. Thank you for listening to this message. Know that you are not merely a viewer. You are one who has been chosen to live in the presence of the Word of God each day. Do not forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so that you will not miss any spiritual message. Amen.